Aloha, welcome, gang. It is Aloha Friday, and I'm so happy about that. Nothing. Oh, are you going to bark with a treat in your mouth? Of course she will. So Cassie has been having fun. I've been watching another channel, and oh my gosh, she's been sitting here watching. She even stood up here and was just sitting there watching what was going on and all that. So, oh, now she's going to jump behind me. Say hi, Cassie. You going to say hi to everyone? No, you just want to be hyper. Yes, she is. I have come to the understanding, gang, that I need to figure out a way to get my dog on medicine to calm down because she's too freaking hyper. Oh my God, I've never had a dog like this. So she is just so smart, but anxiety and just, if it's possible for a dog to be hyperactive, yeah, she's ADD. Definitely, definitely. So, hello. Yes, I just went off on a whole tangent. CBD oil boots. You know what? I may try. Hey, you guys, shh, Wrigley, shh. And they've been quiet all afternoon, but I swear, I don't know if I get a different action. Okay, maybe my energy changes right before I go live, but they can tell. They know something's up for sure. So let's go through chat and let me say hi to people while dear YouTube is doing its job. Sorry it took me a few minutes to get things going because Crisp did not turn on. And knowing the way the dogs are right now, I knew I was going to need Crisp today. But Miss Princess was here. Princess Megan, how you doing, my dear? You ready for a weekend? Can't wait. I so can't wait for this weekend. I think it's my last free weekend before my friend and I are doing craft fairs almost every single weekend until we get up to the cruise. So I'm going to enjoy resting this weekend. So who else we got? I know I got Miss Sherry here. Miss Sherry with the Aloha Ohana. And yes, one of these days start teaching you guys different Hawaiian words every time we meet. That's something I got to try that out and see what happens from that. And Tim is here. Hey, Tim, welcome, Tim. Hope you've been having a good day. I've been kind of in and out of lives today, so I haven't really gotten to focus on just one. I've been kind of bouncing around. You know how that goes. And there's Miss Boots, and I am going to have to try the CBD oil on one of these dogs, if not all of them. And who else we got here? Rosalie, I miss you, girl. We are, by the way, now that Rosalie is in here, it reminded me, Cantina tonight's going to be a little different. Okay, 2 hours from now. I need to catch up on what happened in everyone else's life over the last 2 weeks. And I know a lot of people want to know what was going on in Vegas and all that fun stuff. So we're just going to come around and talk story and all that. So I love you, Rosaline, though, and I miss you. I miss giving hugs to everyone from Vegas. Hello, Red Rock, my dear. I hope you're having a good one. And it's Aloha Friday, no work till Monday. Unless life sucks and you have to work weekends, then we got a different issue here. So who else do I have? Ruby, I knew I was seeing someone new here. Hello, Ruby. Welcome, my dear. Welcome. Pull up a seat. And right now we're just talking, but we're going to go into our subject in just a couple minutes. Actually, in fact, the subject for today came out of a number of people's requests. You guys know I keep running out of ideas of what we can talk about. And there's tons of mental health subjects, but I want it to be something that I get something out of, as well as something that you guys get something out of. And I've had a couple people actually mention, what about a live about recognizing therapy? Will it help you? How do you get started with therapy? If you've been in it before, how do you get back to it? All those things. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, this is the time for that. So here we go. And that was, hello. And I know I said hi to Miss Boots. Hello. Honest. Okay, pause is specifically made for dogs. Okay. I did try a little of the one that you put under their tongue, but I was really worried about the dosage because this little one here is less than, would you stop growling at everyone? She's less than 5 pounds. So I'm always like, so worried. And we got Red Rock Amy. Amy's another one I miss hugging. Oh my God, I miss hugging Amy. And so I think that's up there's JP popping in. It's always time for therapy. Yes, exactly. Therapy is something. Okay, let's start this whole discussion actually with this. You guys know how first a couple things. Okay, and we all do know. Let me put my banner so I can get this correct here. First of all, just a reminder, gang, anytime we deal with mental health, heck, many times when we're dealing with our missing and true crime, things can come up that trigger us, but definitely on mental health lives, there's a possibility that if you're dealing with issues, you may find yourself triggered. So just as a reminder for everyone, if you find yourself in one of those places, okay, this phone number right here, 988, this is the reason why so many of us have now had to start putting area codes, even if we're calling the person living next door to us. And they wanted to put together a lifeline for people to be able to call, if just like 911 or any of those other 3-digit helplines. So this is here for you. Okay. And we've had people, Cassie, would you stop it or I'm going to send you over to grandma? Your choice. And like she knows what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. And, but no, I know we've had people even from this community. Okay. Some of them have told me, some of them have told this group that they have made that decision, that that's a phone number that they have written down and actually called. And I think it's amazing because that's when we take control of our own life and our own mental health. Because, guys, no one else can take care of our mental health for us. We have to do it. Okay. Everyone else can tell you, oh, you know what? We think you need this, or, well, okay, yeah. And we can talk with each other. But at some point, each of us need to take that control over and figuring out where we are. And we all change. I've seen a therapist in my life. I'm not right now, but I have seen one in the past. And who's to say I won't be seeing one again in the future? I may. If I find myself in that place where I know I'm going to need someone, then I need to be listening to myself and getting ready for it. Okay. JP, there's a text number that will call you as well. Don't have it. JP, thank you. If you ever find that, could you send it to me so I can make sure? I want to add that over to all of my stuff for all the mods. That would be great because that's nice. That's nice to have. So 988. So let me ask this question. You guys do know, okay, guys, people, please don't feel like you have to answer these questions when I ask them. But I think it's really important for us to realize mental health is not that taboo subject that people have always wanted it to be. It was back when I was growing up, back when I was in my 20s, it was that taboo subject. I never would have just made the comment that I just did, that there was a time I saw a therapist. That would have been unheard of to say. It could have ruined careers. It could have all sorts of stuff. We're past that. We're getting past that. We're still moving past. Yes, but we are moving past it. But I think it's important for us to realize we're all in these fights for our own mental health and growth and healing together. So just to start, let me just ask, put a 1 in chat if you or someone you know, okay, has gone to therapy at some point in their life. Put a 2 in chat if you don't know anyone who has ever gone to therapy. My suspicion is there's going to be a hell of a lot of 1s in here. However, most of us, up to the last few years, would never have seen a 1 pop up. Bingo, 111 princess. Thank you. Thank you for being honest there. And that's exactly where it is. Probably about, I'm guessing, 80-90% of the population knows people. Not everyone. We're not all going to know someone. Okay, chances are we all know someone, they just aren't telling us and stuff like that. I've had friends who had no idea that I had seen someone at some time. And see, Boots there, and thank you for sharing that you go weekly as well as online. And online has brought this whole new COVID, for all its positives, negatives, and I'm not sure how I feel about the therapy side of it. There's some very good positive sides to online therapy. There's also some negative sides to it, and it's finding out who you are as a person and what works for you. And that's where this whole idea of therapy comes into play. Because it's not like you can pull out a piece of paper and be answered 20 questions and be like, yep, I need to go to therapy, and this is who I need to see, and this is how long I need to be there, and this is how I need to go to therapy. And no, we're all individuals. Even me, what worked for me back in my 20s probably would not work now. I'm a different girl now, totally different. And see, there you go, Boots. It's easier for you online. And it's easier because you have the access so much, especially if someone doesn't like leaving their house or something. So there's so many options out there. And so let's start. You do video. Sherry does video calls. See, and that's what's amazing. There was a time we never saw a doctor video-wise. I remember actually when I first started working in the healthcare field, one of the first grants I ever wrote was for distance health, because we were on another island and we needed to bring in a satellite dish so we could start having distance healthcare appointments and stuff like that. And that was back right around the year 2000. And I was like, oh God, this is the craziest thing ever. And now it's just part of our life. And hello, Jet's mom, my dear. Love you, love you. Amy said there are a lot of people who claim mental health to be a victim and taking it. Oh, hell yes. And that's one reason, guys, if you'll ever see, most of you guys have figured me out by now. I have a strong belief that we are given the ability to fight whatever comes our way. There's no reason for any of us to be stuck as victims. Okay, because you know what? And there was a time I was stuck as a victim in my 20s. I was. Okay, I was a poor me. I used it. I did whatever. I mean, if I didn't work real well with work, all of a sudden I might use it as an excuse not to go to work or all these other things. And as I've gotten older, I see it more and more as a chance to grow, to understand what makes me tick, and to actually show myself how freaking strong of a woman I am. And that's something every one of us can do. So, Amy, you got a point. There are some people who are very, very happy. Okay, and I don't think they're happy being where they are, but it's easier. It's easier to stay stuck in that than try to deal with it, because it is hard. Therapy is not easy. It is not. Anyone who's been in it, some moments flow very, very easily. Other moments are scary. They bring up shit. Oh my gosh, there were times I would finish with a therapy appointment and I felt like my whole life was falling apart. And because I was coming up with memories, all these different things going on, and it was rough, really rough. But over the years, I've realized I make the decision. Okay, whoever or whatever put me into that frame of mind to begin with, that doesn't matter. What matters is what I'm going to do with it. And that's why I really like this idea. When people came up with the idea of having a live about recognizing when to go to therapy, okay, what to expect, how to get set up, because it is daunting too. It's hard enough just coming to terms with, yeah, maybe it is time for me to see someone. I've had a few times since that I've had to do that. And, but it's even harder when you're trying to be like, okay, I need to go now. Oh, shoot, what do I do now? How do I contact people? How do I decide who to go see? What do I do on my first appointment? Because it doesn't matter how many times you go, that first appointment is scary. It's really scary. Boots said, my therapist makes sure to stop talking about traumatic things with enough time to wind down, which is wonderful. And that's why I love having this group here, because that comment right there, Boots, is not something I have in my notes right here. And it is important. We're going to get to a point where we talk about what to expect and stuff. And I think that's something that's a good expectation going into therapy, that your therapist knows at a certain time, we need to stop talking about trauma or something, anything that's going to trigger. It doesn't necessarily have to be trauma. Okay, it could be something that triggers emotions so that you can kind of pull together and feel safe as you leave. And I thought I saw something else. Sherry, learning you have been lying to yourself is so hard. Oh my God. Yes, it is. because we can I don't know how we fake ourselves out so easily, but we can fake ourselves out. And we can see everything else is around us when in reality, we're the ones driving it ourselves in our own hearts. We're the ones making the decisions. Hey, Chris, welcome, welcome, Chris. We're back in under the Chris, the full one today. So welcome. And Christola made it. Love you, my dear. Love you, love you, love you, my dear. So let's start with what is psychotherapy? Okay. I think it's a lot of us think about getting help for us from a mental health point of view. And we tend to go to, oh, yes, getting locked up in a unit, or we hear all these wild things from what Hollywood likes to tell us. And that's not what it is. Think of it this way. We have hey there, Kathleen. Welcome, welcome, Kathleen. Welcome, my dear. We have two parts to ourselves. We have our physical, the stuff we see, okay? The hair, the nails, the skin, all that stuff. And we also have our mental side, our emotional side. And you know what? We're finding more and more over the years that the two are connected. Welcome, Kelly. Welcome, welcome over here. A bunch of you I was getting to hang out with over on the other channel, so welcome on over here. We're finding more and more as time goes on, there is a tie between your mental health and your physical health. Okay, physical pain and mental pain being connected. That when a person, they're using the same pathways and stuff. In fact, I said a few weeks ago, I was doing research and I heard that for very minor emotional pain, doctors are starting to recognize that you can take something like a Tylenol and it will actually help with that emotional pain, which is wild for me. The idea, yes, I knew they were kind of tied because I could tell if I was very, very nervous or anxious or very depressed, my body reacted to. So you could see that. But seeing that the connections are that much, it's amazing. Kelly, awesome. Thank you. I'll take a look at that for sure. For sure. I will definitely take a look at that. And, oh, perfect. I will be reading that. Nice. Sorry, I did. Congratulations, my dear. I'll read the rest of it once I'm done. And yes, are you saying hi, Cassie? And so it's important for us. Most of us have no problem if we have a sprained ankle. I cut my hand. Okay. Yes. By the way, I'm not wearing anything. Actually, I'm doing the scar guard here and I'm trying to, that's all I can bend it right now and straighten. I can get to there, but it's getting better. But you see these physical things happen and you go to the doctor. You don't think twice about it most times. If your kid does something and hurts themselves, you take them to the doctor. However, if you're finding yourself depressed, anxious, dealing with issues revolving around, say, grief, maybe you've lost people in your life and never been able to handle it, trauma, things like that, for some reason, we've always kind of put that off. Oh, I can deal with that on my own. I can talk with it on my own. No, these are the same. Just the same way you would go see a doctor, okay, about something going on, okay, having a fever, stuff like you need to do these things for yourself. Just because you go to therapy today does not mean, okay, you're going to stop therapy at some point. You are. But it doesn't mean that maybe 2-3 years ago you find yourself in a rough time and you can go back to it. So therapy is first and foremost, it's for everyone. And it benefits everyone. You don't have to be depressed. You don't have to be dealing with the loss of a loved one. You don't have to be dealing with PTSD or bipolar or anything else. Just the grief thing is huge. And I get you, hon. I know you and I've talked a little bit, and I know how much you're going through right now. And psychotherapy, a lot of times we think about it in the case of people who are going through the really rough things in life. But in reality, psychotherapy, therapy in general, is good for anyone who's finding themselves dealing with something. Okay, maybe you're just having a rougher time going to sleep. You may not even know what it is that's causing these things, but you're noticing a difference in your life. Therapy many times will help you work it through, because a lot of times, like was said earlier, I think it was Sherry who said it, it's very easy for us to lie to ourselves. We can see there's a problem in our lives and it's minor, it's nothing major, but over time it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. But if we had that second person who's kind of off and doesn't have to worry about making us completely happy with everything we say or whatever, okay, or we don't have a codependent relationship or things like that, they're able to be open and honest with us and help us out. So psychotherapy can range from just talking, okay, having someone you can go to and talk to. Rosalind, psychotherapy can be seen as a scary thing, but there are many different types of it. Exactly. And that's exactly it here. It can be just talking, sitting down, and I've seen multiple therapists for different reasons and stuff like that. CBT, perfect, Sherry. That's actually one of the ones we were going to actually talk about in this next one here. CBT is one of those different types of therapy. CBT is actually based on talking and figuring things out and how you can react differently and stuff. It can go from just that talking to actual treatments, physical type treatments, okay, for abuse, for PTSD, for a wide range of things. I mean, even to the point where if you have a child and they're having issues with, okay, wetting the bed, okay, and nothing seems to be working, sometimes there's something else going on in the child's head that just needs to be overcome. And once that happens, they're able to find themselves in a different place. And so many of those treatments that we look at, okay, you have CBT, like we were just talking, cognitive behavioral treatment. There's also EMDR. Okay, I know there's quite a few people in here who've used EMDR. I used EMDR to deal with some of my trauma stuff. And it was something that where other stuff was not working for me. Talking alone did nothing really for me at first. Once I got into actually EMDR, it made things worse at first, but it really broke through what needed to be broke through for me. And from there, I was able to just start really dealing with what was going on in my life. And so recognizing there is no one fit for therapy. Okay, therapy is going to be different for every single one of us, and it's going to be different at different times of our lives. So when you're making these decisions to see a therapist and all, you have to know that. You have to understand that. Know what it is that you're looking for. So you have to be your champion. We talk all the time. I know Jet's mom. Okay, you know what being an advocate, a patient advocate is. Okay, you are there to champion the patient. And you, in this case, have to be your own champion, your own advocate. You have to know, you know what, this type of treatment is not going to work for me. Okay, or this is what I want. And you have to fight for that. And so, yes, you use the Air Network therapy model. Yep, along with, and that one is a newer one. And and you do. It's understanding also, for example, like Boots just said, sometimes we have different mental health illnesses, disorders, okay, issues going on, and each of those might require a different type of therapy. Someone who is bipolar might need something different from someone who has a dissociative disorder. On top of that, there's other things we're going to talk about. For example, like when I looked for a therapist at the beginning, okay, religion has always meant a lot to me. So I wanted to look as part of my options out there, any potential therapists who worked within religion, because they would understand my faith and be able to help me match my healing with that. So it's great knowing what psychotherapy is about, but when do you need it? This is a question I still fight with a lot. Will do, Rosaline. When do you know it's time to see a therapist? Even if you've seen a therapist before, you fight with this. Okay, it's like, oh, my life is starting to have some issues. Should I go back and see my therapist right now? Can I deal with it on my own, knowing exactly, okay, using the tools that I've been given in the past. Okay, and you've got to figure that out. Hello, here she goes. I hope you're doing good today, my dear. So, I try to pull together a list of some of the signs. And again, these signs are specific to you. So you take what makes sense out of this for you. Okay, the first is, do you find yourself having difficulty regulating your emotions? Okay. One of the things that you find, especially with depression, things like that, is, and you'll notice a lot of these things we're going to talk are actually also signs of depression, signs of anxiety, signs of grief, things like that. The more we're dealing with mental health issues in our head, okay, the more we find ourselves in a place where it's very hard to maintain the focus on where our emotions are. We may find ourselves angry this moment and then we switch on a dime. I talked about reactive communication a couple weeks ago. That's kind of this thing where all of a sudden you're very happy with someone and someone makes a comment to you and you blow up. And it really doesn't make any sense why you're blowing up. So you're starting to realize that your emotions they're not as steady as they normally are. They're kind of all over the place. That could be one of the things. You also may find yourself not performing as well as you usually do at work or at school. Maybe you're you're at college, okay, you're university level, and you're normally a B student. And all of a sudden you're finding yourself struggling to maintain a C, okay? Or maybe you have never really had a major problem within work. You got your work done on time, you had no problems with things, and yet all of a sudden you're struggling to keep up with everything. Okay, you're getting upset at your boss or your coworkers for not doing this or not doing that, and you just can't control it. Grandma shared the overlapping symptoms. We need to peel back the layers to the root cause. You went for panic attacks and ended up with autism. Bingo. And that's it, because sometimes the things that we're dealing with, and we're thinking, what if, for example, Grandma Sherry, I hope you don't mind me using you as an example here, but what if because of those, you thought to yourself, oh, these are just panic attacks. I can deal with this. I mean, I could read this book over here and do this over here and do what Dr. Google says over here. You never would have gotten that diagnosis. And if you had, it might have been even years later. So being able to say, you know what? I need a little extra help right now. Someone who understands a little bit more than me, who has been through and seen stuff among other people, makes such a difference. Perhaps you're experiencing, okay, we talk about with depression. Sometimes one of the symptoms, are you eating more or less? That's something that happens, okay? Some of us, when we're depressed, we are eaters. Some of us, when we're depressed, you don't eat at all. That's me. When I'm depressed, I don't eat. Okay, I have my mom, on the other hand, that when she's having a rough time, she eats. So recognizing what your changes are. Same with sleep. Some people will sleep nonstop. Others, on the other hand, will not be able to fall asleep. I could not fall asleep. I hated the idea of sleeping. Okay, it was one of my biggest issues. And I could not get myself to fall asleep to save my life. I loved it when I was sleeping. Don't get me wrong. I loved it once I fell asleep. But the fear leading up to sleep was an issue. Hey, Robbie, love you, my dear. And so recognizing this is why it's so important, whether it's your physical health or emotional health. You need to understand your body, okay? So many of us talk about how you can recognize when all of a sudden your body is not responding the way it normally does. Or you start a new medicine and you're like, oh boy, no, that's not going to work for me because now I'm doing this. Or, okay, you find yourself snapping at the slightest thing. Knowing your body, whether it's those emotions or just something like me and my rosacea. I know when my rosacea acts up, I know certain things I can do and certain things I can't. My mom deals with IBS. She knows certain things she can and can't do. we have to be in tune with who we are so that we can make sure we're getting ourselves whatever help we need. Maybe you find yourself struggling to build or maintain relationships. This could be romantic. Okay, it could be husband, wife. It could be, okay, husband, husband, wife, wife, girlfriend, okay, whatever. It could be just your friends. Maybe you never have a problem, okay, talking with your friends, connecting with your friends, and all of a sudden you find yourself, this is what I do when I start having a rough time, I disappear. A couple of you guys have figured this out about me. When I go silent for a few days, chances are I am distancing myself, which is not always the best thing to do. And then I need to realize it, and I have to make the changes I have to make for myself to make sure I'm on the right track. So if you see that you're struggling with these, now one or two of these things you may be like, nah, no need to be go to therapy. I know how to deal with it. But if you find yourself with multiple of these things, that's your sign that, you know what, maybe. One time I'm going to say, I think every one of us does need to see a therapist, though, is trauma. None of us are born or could even read enough to be able to deal with trauma without a third person, a person in that third part that can come in and help us understand stuff. There are so many things with trauma that we need that person who understands what's going on. And yes, we can have our friends, okay, we can have our family that support us, and they do. They truly help us. But a therapist is going to understand PTSD, for example. A therapist is going to understand, okay, self-blame, all those things that we're not going to quite catch at times. Okay, those little things that get us deeper and deeper. So I would say if you've experienced trauma, you probably give it a try. Find someone. You might take a couple times of finding the right person, but it does make a difference. Truly, truly makes a difference. And so maybe you no longer enjoy what you normally do. Maybe, hey, we're on YouTube. How many of us, we love our time on YouTube? We get here and we enjoy hanging out with people, talking story. Heck, we even enjoy the drama at times, okay? And then all of a sudden you find yourself, and I think most of us have been in this place, when the drama gets to be too much or too much going on in our lives, we start feeling this thing that's kind of, we're like, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm not having fun. You go in and you say hi and you're like, okay, yeah, now I'm just going to be quiet or stuff. And it changes our thought process. We don't enjoy it. We don't have joy for those things anymore. And Marie Kondo's whole idea, okay, have the things that you enjoy in life. Okay, that's one of those signs. Another, if you're grieving, this is something we talked about a few weeks ago, grief. Each of us deal with grief in a different way. Sometimes you can deal with grief on your own. Okay, maybe you've lost a friend, you've lost, okay, whether it's losing them or they passed away or something like that. And if it's maybe you had months to prepare for it, it was cancer, something like that. You might be okay dealing with it on your own. But there comes times for some people that maybe you have multiple losses in a very short time period, or they're sudden losses or things like that. And having that person you can go to just talk through the feelings, because otherwise, usually what happens, especially with grief, is we dig it down further, deeper and deeper and deeper. And we get into this whole idea that, you know what? If I'm not thinking about it, I don't have to deal with it or anything like that. And someday it blows up, and it will blow up at some time. So being able to talk to someone, or maybe your physical health has changed. Anyone who has ever had a diagnosis, a severe diagnosis, or something that's changing their lifestyle knows how this can truly affect a person. Okay, like I just said, my mom has IBS. And she had a really rough time a couple days ago, and I came across the FOD map, whatever that is. But anyhow, I was reading it over with foods that she can eat and can't eat. Okay, for a few days there, it was rougher because she's like, oh, but I like this food and I like this food. It's like all the foods that I like are the ones I shouldn't be eating. And so those things do become things we mourn and we grieve. And maybe you want to, and this is where I'm talking about with therapy helps anyone. Okay. Maybe you want to improve yourself. There's something that you want to do. Maybe you want to progress in life. Maybe you want to learn new skills. Maybe you want to become an entrepreneur. Okay. Something I look at quite often, but I don't know quite how to do it because I've always worked under a normal, career area. To be honest, therapists can be very helpful with that. Okay. Now we're going to talk about different types of therapists. Okay. Really quickly here. And, but it could be a life coach type therapy session where someone who's sitting there trying to help you understand how you can improve yourself. Okay. Where do you start? What are some of the steps? What can you do differently? Grandma Sherry's 7 family. Oh my gosh. 7 family members, 2 years. You stop crying after and that's it. I know other people in that same exact place where they've had so many deaths and losses in a short period of time. At some point you almost just shut down because it's easier than other things. Oh yeah, kitty puppy therapy is actually one of the best. It's one reason why when I was in therapy I couldn't have a dog, but I had a pet rat, and that rat was like, well, I had a bird also, but between those two, they were my therapy when I got home. I needed the therapy when I got home to kind of recenter myself. So, and the last thing I would say, if you're finding yourself dealing with, it might be one of those things to look at for therapy is, do you find yourself using substances or a substance or an addictive activity? Now, we all have our coping mechanisms. Coping mechanisms are needed. We need those things. Okay. It's when these coping mechanisms become as much of the problem as the thing we're trying to cope with that we've got an issue. Okay. Utilizing medications or something. Okay. Self-medicating. One of the biggest things that most people, especially that have dealt with trauma, they self-medicate because even if they're wanting to work on things themselves at home, they're like, well, you know what? I can do this. This will make it easier for me to deal with all the emotions while I'm working through the emotions. I can take this or drink this or whatever. Same thing with certain activities. Certain activities on their own are no problem, but once they become almost addiction level, okay, sex, shopping. Okay, we've all heard of the people who take shopping to that next level where it's an addiction. Exercise, one of the best things in the world you can do. I've known 2 or 3 people in my life who had taken it to the point where it became an unhealthy addiction that was being used to help them cope with something. So they were just replacing one thing for another. So if you find yourself in that place, that may be the other sign that, you know what? Maybe it's time for me to find someone who can help me come up with better ways to deal with this. So what are the different types of practitioners? Because you've made the decision. Okay, yeah, I think I need to see someone now. You thought about it, you made the decision, but now you've got to start putting the whole plan together. What are you going to do? Well, the first thing is figuring out what type of practitioner you need to see, because there are tons of them out there, and each country has different requirements. Just tons of stuff out that you can go with. So the first group I'm going to talk about is the clinical psychologist. Your clinical psychologists have a doctorate behind their name. So you'll have a PhD or a psychiatric degree, so PsyD. That will be after their name. Okay, these people, they're not medical doctors. They're just doctors. They've done the extra research and stuff like that to be able to treat someone. Usually PhD is more focused on the research side of things, and the PsyD is more action. Okay, actual do that, both do both. And so that would be your first one. If you need say, especially if you're someone you're looking at what you're coming to them for and it's a little bit more involved, maybe you have some other issues such as, okay, severe depression, anxiety, maybe even something like bipolar, something like that, because these people understand all of those other sides. They've gone to college for all that, university for all that. The next group is actually the group kind of, I don't want to say under that, but yeah, under that. They don't have quite the same level of experience, of education. They're your licensed therapists. Your licensed therapists usually have a master's degree. And JP, that's why it's important for you to understand. It's totally fair not trusting doctors. My uncle does not trust doctors at all. And that's why it's important to understand what options are out there when we see people. Because what would work for one person may want that doctor, and the other person may want a licensed therapist. Someone who has a master's, who has some of the education behind it. Usually you're talking someone who has focused in on a certain field. So like a master's of social work. So you'll see the little letters behind their name. MSW, Master of Social Work. LCSW. So an LCSW is, they usually have their Masters of Social Work, but they've become licensed. So they've taken an additional test beyond the Masters. Then there's LMFT, which is dealing with marital type things. Welcome back, Rosalie. And also you have different types of licensed therapists. I'm going to throw in here, it's not necessarily licensed. Well, it's certified more or less. Life coaches. Life coaches are probably one of the cheapest options out there because they usually are, they're not going to college level and getting one of the degrees. It's more of a license or a certification through a separate company to be able to help people with things like searching for jobs, dealing with just everyday life shit that happens and things on that level. Last of the different types to recognize is the actual medical doctor. Now, why have I thrown this in here? This, first of all, it's a psychiatrist. There's a psychiatrist, there's a psychologist. Psychologists cannot usually give you medications. Psychiatrists can give you medications. Rosalie, so am I. Rosalie just said she's working towards her certification for life coach. I've actually been working in that direction. That's actually one of my whole issues with trying to become an entrepreneur. And also, but it's a great thing because I'm actually learning as I'm doing it, which is so great. You'll make a great one, Rosalie, my dear. You will. You'll make a great one. So say you are in a position where you know as you're going through therapy, there's a very high chance you will benefit from medications, anti-anxiety, antidepressants, other medication, okay, psychiatric drugs, whether it's for bipolar, other types of issues. One of the very important things to know is that psychiatrist is who's going to have to give you those meds. So you're left with one of two options here. The first option is you have two different doctors. Okay, you have your therapist, and then you have your psychiatrist. That's actually the direction I went way back in my 20s. Okay, I went to a doctor who I would meet with once a week, twice a week, whatever it was I needed at that time. Okay, and then it became less and less often. And then once every month or so, I would go see the psychiatrist who would give me whatever medications. Like I said, I hated sleeping. Sleeping was one of the hardest things in the world for me to do. I would lay in bed for hours trying to fall asleep, but not wanting to fall asleep. So they were able to help me with that. So that's one option. The other option is you go to a psychiatrist who also does therapy. And those are a little harder to find, but they are out there. And then you can kind of limit it to one person who really understands everything that's going on with you. So those are, as you're making that decision and being like, yep, here we go, I'm going towards that, you're going to want to kind of get an idea what's going to be the best for you. Do you want a life coach? Do you want a psychiatrist, a psychologist? Do you want a social worker who's a licensed, okay, therapist? And Red Rock, that is, oh my God, Red Rock, you'll have to share her, if she doesn't mind, share her information with me. I'd love to see her Facebook because I love reading things like that. I really do. So that's awesome. That is awesome. That's a reason to be proud of her. That's for sure. And so you now know what you need. Okay. You're like, okay, yes, I want a psychiatrist and a psychologist, or I want a life coach, or I want this. Now you've got to find the right person. Okay. This is when the work starts, guys. But remember, you're going to be hiring someone. That's one thing always to keep in the back of your head when it comes to therapy. You are hiring this person. You are not being assigned them. Yes, I know in certain okay, HMOs and all that, you're kind of limited and stuff like that. But in the end, okay, there's a major connection between the quality of the relationship you're going to have with this person and just how well you are able to work through issues and heal or whatever it is that you need. Okay, that's scientifically been proven that the quality of that relationship is going to affect how you progress further on. So this part becomes more important than anything you'll ever see. And I'll be honest, when I first went to a therapist, I worked at a healthcare facility. So I just said, hey, anyone know of that and all that? And that one of my friends happened to work there. And she's like, oh, yeah, so-and-so. Actually, I saw someone who was on our medical staff. I was in charge of credentialing and I did their credentialing. And but I never really shopped. You need to shop. Shop around because it makes the difference between you seeing 4 or 5 different therapists and feeling like you're never going to find the right one and finding the right one fairly quickly. So there's many ways you can do that. First, ask around. Ask people locally. Okay, if you know of people who've seen a therapist, this is where it's so great that it's not the taboo that it used to be. Yes, there is still a taboo out there. I understand and I agree with you. There is still a taboo and we need to get rid of that taboo. But it's much better than it used to be. So ask people, okay, do you know of anyone? That's what you would do if, say, you needed to go have surgery. Say you needed orthopedic surgery, okay? You would be going around doing research everywhere to try to find the best orthopedic surgeon possible. And you're going to do the same thing here. Ask around, find out what people have, what worked for other people, okay? What were the relationships? Research those options online. Online is one of the greatest tools. It can also be one of the biggest hindrances, and because Dr. Google tends to love to invade our brain big time, but research them, okay? Go to WebMD, go to the American Psychiatric page, okay? Go to your local pages because you'll be able to get information from there. Read all of the reviews. No, okay, and I will say this though, okay, how many of you guys will write a review that is piss angry at someone, furious at someone and what they did? But if you get a great person, you tend to forget to write the reviews. I don't know about you, but that's what I do. Okay, I'll write stuff when I'm angry, but when I'm happy, I tend to forget about it. So remember that when you're reading these, sometimes that's what happens. It's good to know that. So, hey, Robin, welcome, Robin. Rosaline, it might be possible to do a pre-care interview. Bingo, exactly. And remember that one, in fact, because right here, in fact, that was next. Interview them. Okay, interviews can take place in different ways, guys. Okay, once you start getting that list of people that you might want to go see, you're going to start narrowing it down. You may be able to get them, some, not many, but some will be willing to have you come in and talk with them first just to see how things feel. Some of them would charge you for that. So you know what? If they want your business, they should be willing to talk to you on the phone. Okay, shouldn't be a secretary or something like that. If they're going to be the type of person to be like, if you're calling up their office and telling them this stuff, that you're really looking for the right person with the right match and stuff, and you had some questions to ask, and they're like, Oh, yeah, yeah. My secretary can take care of that. Chances are it might not be the best match for you. Maybe it is. Everyone has their own way. Okay. On the other hand, though, if they're willing to talk to you, you can ask them a bunch of questions, and we'll go through some of those questions, okay, in the next section. Um, get more than one recommendation. I said that a few minutes ago. We tend to grab one name, and because it's a lot of work to research stuff, and it's easier just to grab that name and try it out and be like, okay, if it doesn't work, I'll grab another name and stuff. But the problem is, the more times you see a different therapist, the more, I'll be honest, at least for me, I felt like I was the failure in it. Yeah, I'm never going to find the right person for me. Okay, there is no such thing as the right person for me, things like that. So give yourself those options from the beginning. Connect with them all. Ask the same questions. Okay, figure it out from there. And last, as you're doing that, you really need to know what it is you want. Okay, therapy is not the same across the board. So you need to know, do your research on the types of therapy for you. Okay, if you're, for example, Boots, dealing dissociative, okay, disorders, you would want a different type of therapy than, say, someone who is just trying to figure out their career in the next 20 years of their life. Okay, different types of things there. One is more talking. The other might be dealing with a lot more, okay, specific treatment modalities. And so know the type of therapy you're looking at. Do you want to be talking one-on-one? Do you like talking but also having a therapist who has group meetings? Okay, do you want someone who's going to do EMDR, CBT, anything like that? Look at the issues you're dealing with. Okay, like I said, dissociative identity. Other options, okay, maybe it's something you need someone who deals with childhood abuse. Maybe you need someone who deals with domestic violence. Okay, could be someone who deals with procrastination. Okay, so many different things that are out there. What is the issue you want help with? And next, look at what type of person do you want? I mentioned to you, yeah, Boots, after therapy, I was exhausted. I would go home and sleep, to be honest. And with the rat until I had to put him away. But yeah, that's a different issue. And sleeping with a rat was a little hard. So yeah, cages help there. But as I mentioned, religion for me, I wanted someone as a possibility. I didn't choose this person, but I wanted to look at the possibilities of people who understood where my faith came from. Okay, maybe you need someone, okay, maybe you want a female, maybe you want a male, maybe you have, okay, you want someone who's from LGBTQ area. Okay, so everyone has a different thought of what they see as the best match for them. So be looking for that from the get-go, and then you'll have better chance of finding the right person. So you now have your list, and you're trying to figure out, where do I go from now? Okay, I told you about interviewing them. Rosalie mentioned that also. That interview is amazing if you can pull that off. Okay, what are some of the questions you would want to ask someone? Again, remember, you're hiring them. If you were going to hire a nanny for your kids, a babysitter, a housekeeper, a yard person, whatever, you'd be interviewing them. Interview this person. Ask them what type of evidence-based treatment would they consider for what it is you're concerned about. So how are you going to figure that out? Well, you need to do your own legwork first. So if you are dealing with depression, your kids just left the house, whatever, okay, empty nest syndrome, whatever, research online. What are some of the, and the best word to use for this, evidence-based treatments? Basically, what this comes down to is they've done research and they found this works great. It's like Boots said, okay, EMDR with this, it works real well. Kathleen, are there any good websites to look for therapists in your state or city? It differs based off of your state and city. I know there are, like the American Psychiatric Association, APA. I think you could go to their website. I'm not sure if Ahmad could check that out. I think it's apa.org. And if not, I can also look later. Come join Discord. If anyone wants to pop Discord in for me, please do. Thank you. I'm sorry about that. I don't have that listed right away. And I can update things in our Discord with things. But yeah, you can definitely go to APA. They're great because they'll also show you who's licensed and that they are okay with, which is great. Rosalind has a good points there too. Google search, great place to type. Seriously, just type in therapy, okay, psychiatrist, life coach, MSW, whatever it is, in my case, Hawaii. Okay, put your city also and all. But you can go from there and it's going to start breaking down ideas for you. Because you may also have an association that's local that can help you out even further. Sherry, thank you. You are the bomb. You are amazing. Thank you, my dear. Insurance company, as Rosalind just said also. Okay, your insurance company, because especially with insurances, we know if you're covered by insurance, you may be limited by insurance. So make sure, because I did not add this to this list and I should have done that. Okay, it's not going to be good if you find that perfect therapist for you and then you find out your insurance, he or she does not cover that insurance. So it might be a great thing to start off by checking, okay, with your insurance. And you can check that. Sherry, good one too. 988 has some great things. Samha, SAMHA, great way within that. I don't know if Rain has it, but they may also. It's just, yeah. Dr. Google can be very helpful in that point. So research that. If you know you're having an issue, if you know you're bipolar, you know, maybe you have schizoaffective disorder, stuff like that, or seasonal affective disorder. Okay, typing that word in with evidence-based treatment and see what they suggest. That way, when you go to your doctor and you're interviewing them, you can ask them, so what evidence-based treatments would you suggest? See if they mention the same thing, because that's going to show whether or not they're on top of their research or not, because this is heavily research-based. Ask them, do they have experience with what it is that you are looking to talk to them about? Okay, it does not help for you to go see a doctor, okay, as, for example, say you're a senior citizen, my mom, okay, as she's getting older, you deal with a lot of emotions as you're getting older. And it's really, I mean, depression's actually one of the highest issues out there for those that are seniors. Would you necessarily want to go to a therapist who only deals with children? Probably not. So try to find someone who deals with whatever it is that you're asking for help with. And that will help you out tremendously. Also, ask them whether they have experience dealing not only with the concern, oh, well, this kind of goes together, the concern as well as the treatment. So if you're going to want to use EMDR, have they ever used EMDR? Okay. If you've got a certain age, you're dealing with a certain age, or maybe PTSD, you want someone who has dealt with domestic violence in childhood or something like that. Those are what you're going to want to look for. For example, one of the best therapists that I've ever gone to for me, okay, actually slid between adults and child therapy. And which for me was actually wonderful, because I actually was interested at that time in inner child work. Okay, because there were parts of me there that needed to address what had happened. And also looking at those types of things makes a big help. This is one of the things we tend to forget about, or it's the one thing we think about and we forget about the rest. Ask them about the fees. How does it work? Do you have to pay up front and insurance covers you? Okay, ask them about, what if you miss a doctor's appointment? Maybe you get sick. Are there fees that they're going to charge you for that? Important things to know those things up front. And because again, the worst thing in the world would be to go have your first real appointment and be like, this is the person, and then find out, oh shit, I've got problems now, because they're going to ask me to pay everything up front and I don't have the money to pay it up front. Or, and if that's the case, ask them, maybe if you can't, maybe they'll work with you on stuff. It's what this all comes down to there. and ask them if they have what goes with this. They're not going to be able to give you an exact amount of time that you're going to be in therapy. Hey, Ramblin' Rome. Hello, hello, my dear. Aloha. Um, they're not going to be able to tell you that. Okay. Usually by the second appointment, they were able to tell me, okay, let's meet once a week for the first so many weeks. And then at some point, we'll pop it up to once every other week. And then we'll change it out. And then at some point, it'll be done, or you leave, one or the other. But you can ask them, what is their thought? What is the average for them? Because that's going to make a difference. If you know you're going to have to pay a certain copay for 2 months versus 6 months or a year, it could make a difference for you in knowing that. So ask them those things. They're not going to be able to give you, and they'll probably say, well, we can't really give you the exact thing. Yeah, I understand you can't give me that, but I'm just trying to get an idea because I need to figure out my finances. So very helpful in being able to do that. Find out where their office is. Not sure about you guys. I live on an island with traffic that is as bad as big cities like San Francisco, okay, and Chicago. They are horrible, okay? I needed someone who was within probably a 5 to 6 mile range. Otherwise, I was going to spend an hour and a half on the road trying to get to appointments. So I wanted to know what was going on there. Find out about parking. Because if there is parking that you've got to pay for, you need to know. Do they validate? Do they not validate? They're stupid questions, but they're the things that we forget because we're so focused. Boots, yep, 7 years. Yeah, it's certain disorders take a whole lot more. And over the time, things change. You may start off with it 2-3 times a week, and then by the time you're at a couple years, you're going in once every 2-3 months, depending on what's going on with you and how things are going. And so check into those things. And also, are they available in an emergency? One of the hardest things about seeing a therapist is it opens up a lot. Different for different people. I'll grant that. If someone's looking at their future and goal setting and stuff like that, you're probably not going to have emergency things. But if you, Grandma Sherry, I'll have to take all my comments here and try to put together something, and I'll try to pop it into Discord in one of the mental health folders. By the way, if you are in Discord, we've split Discord up between mental health and missing people. And mental health section actually does have areas if people just want a place to journal, if they have questions, they just need to talk with people, or seriously, I've actually used it just to journal my own feelings. I don't need a reply or anything. It's there. And so, but yeah, no, that actually, I think with the resources, it'd be very helpful to have that. So thank you. Good point. So the emergency becomes important because as you are going through and opening issues, especially if it's trauma-based, especially if there's PTSD or childhood things or things like that, a lot of things will pop up outside of therapy. They'll pop up in the middle of a dream. Okay, they'll pop up when all of a sudden you're at work and someone walks by with a certain cologne on or something like that. And all of a sudden you're getting slammed and your anxiety is going through the roof. All these things are going through the roof. And if you don't have an ability to talk with your therapist, whether it's by the phone or email or whatever, then you start questioning, maybe this is too much for me. And you pull out of therapy and you find yourself again burying it all. And that's what happens. You end up burying it and until finally something just opens it all up and you have no choice. You got to go back. So will they be available or have someone who's available to deal with you no matter what? And we've all seen those cases where someone triggers outside of therapy. It's happened to me multiple times. Okay, I used to literally at work, I had my own office and it had a little closet in it. And multiple times, I went into that closet because I needed some privacy because I was triggering. So you find, now those are back in my 20s. I haven't had that happen in years, but you have to have those skills. And those are things that my therapist and I had talked about. How do you deal with these things? because it's also no good if you're just always having to call them. You need to learn the skills to deal with it, and they can help you through that. So you've chosen your doctor, your therapist, your caseworker, whatever. Boots Mama, if I get into a crisis situation, my therapist will see me every day she works. She is part-time, so that changes every week. I also have counseling line. That is separate, and that's what's perfect. I'm happy you mentioned the counseling line. Because, guys, our therapists are human, too. Okay, they need some, think about it. They probably are taking care of, 50 to 100 different people easily. And they need some free time of their own. So having a place that has like a counseling line that works with them, that they have access to records, things like that, is actually a huge help. So that would be another type of question to ask. Thanks for bringing that up, Boots. And so you now have that. You've set up your first appointment. You know exactly who you're going to go with. Okay, I'm going to go with this one. Now, first of all, you may decide to go to 2 different people for a first appointment and then cancel one. Totally fair. Insurance probably won't cover it, but if you have the ability, it's awesome. And but if not, you get in there. You're at your first visit. This is, ooh, have fun with Chad, my dear Amy. Have fun with Chad. And yeah, no, you guys, family takes precedence. You know that. Love you though. Love you. You're at your first visit. What are some of the things to keep in the back of your head? Because these are the ones, the research and all, you know what, that's busy work. It's when we all of a sudden are sitting there in a room and we freak out that things start getting real. So first of all, no, it's okay. You're gonna feel off. You're gonna feel vulnerable, okay? You may feel strange, scared. You may actually feel like you're broken. Okay, I remember that, almost that feeling. When the first time I ever went into a therapist, I was sitting in the waiting room and I felt like, oh my God, I am so broken that I'm having to come to this person to help put me back together. And that's fine to feel that way. Okay, it's totally fine. Booth's great idea. Go in with a list of questions. And she had her questions too. Exactly. It's okay to not be okay, guys. Exactly, Sherry. Exactly. Think of it this way. It's almost like going on a first date. You know that first date where you have all these nerves and you're worried about, oh my God, this person's going to judge me. And what if they don't think I'm who they think I am? Or what about this? What if I tell them this and they roll their eyes or stuff like that? That's what it feels like. And knowing, you know what, it is like a first date. At the end of that date, you're going to make the decision whether you want to keep going to them or not. Same way on a first date, you're going to make the decision. Do you accept phone calls from this person? And first place you're going to walk into as you walk in is a waiting room. Okay, and I know I'm going through some of this very basically, but I wanted it to be basic so that this could help everyone who might need this type of thing, not just those of us who've been through it many times. So when you walk into the office, usually like any other office, there's a waiting room. Now, that's going to be different type of waiting room depending on the type of doctor you're going to. If they're connected to a hospital, chances are it's going to be a big hospital-like place, pretty much. If it's more, okay, a lot of our therapists that you might see are in work for themselves. Okay, they work for, they're self-employed. Hey, LFT! Hey, welcome. Hey, there you go. You know, I'm so happy actually, LFT, that more and more people are being willing to go and talk about it and stuff like that. So I love you, my dear. So if it is a small, okay, 1-person office or 2-person office, it may be a small little place. Usually there's music, or they may have aromatherapy or whatever, because they know you're a nervous wreck when you're there. Okay, especially if someone else is there. I remember sitting in the waiting room thinking, oh my gosh, what does this person think about me right now? And so yeah, it's kind of weird, but that's how I always think about everything. And next, you get called in, you go into the office. Let me ask you guys this, because I was going to write it down, but I thought, let's see if we can get the exact idea here. When any of you guys who have been to a therapist, okay, you've walked into their office. What does the office usually look like? What are some of the things that most of the offices you've been into look like? because I found they almost all look almost exactly the same, plus or minus a few things depending on what they're doing. Boots Mama, so your therapist allows people to bring pets in, which is great, especially now that we have the ability to do not just service animals, but emotional support animals, ESAs. Plants, yes. Plants are a biggie because they give us extra oxygen. Okay, they have a way of calming people down. Comfy chairs. Yep, you're usually not sitting in very, weird chair. Okay, straight back chair. You usually have a comfortable type chair. Okay, usually both of you are sitting in comfortable chairs looking at each other. Okay, it's not like they're sitting behind a desk. Psychiatrists, on the other hand, when they give you your meds, yes, they tend to do that. Outdated carpets. Oh my God, that's yes. Especially in the small one-person office where they don't have money to keep the update and decor changing. And so that's a good one there, totally. Your therapist has been busy traveling, princess. And that's where it's important to have that backup system in place. So yeah, you usually walk in and that's it exactly. Usually you'll have a table, bingo, Rosalie. They might have a water. That's the first time I found one of those little water fountains. And was it my therapist? And then I actually took the water fountain. I bought one for myself. And you guys have seen some of my crystals and stuff here. What I used to do is I would put my crystals that could handle water into the water fountain. And oh my God, I love that water fountain. I haven't reset it up yet here. I should. So, but yeah, sitting there, the two of you sitting in chairs, looking at each other, very almost like you're sitting in someone's living room. You might have a low table. If the person deals with children, you may find games sitting off to the side. Okay, the one I was talking about literally had one of these little games that you could follow this little piece, little round thing around this little maze and stuff. Like, I'll never forget that. They may have dolls up a bookcase usually with tons of books, could have toys on it or stuff like that too. So yeah, a lot of different, yes, Red Rock. You find one with plastic flowers and you're like, okay, because yeah, something about real flowers gives it a more personal feel for some reason. Games, toys, fidget spinners, great thing to take with you. I did not add things to take to therapy. Fidget spinner is awesome. Okay. It's amazing talking to a third party. There's judgment and there's truly something therapeutic and cathartic about it. Yes. And that's it. I find a therapist can help me figure things out that me and my friends have never been able to figure out. I've been saying it all this time, but I've never been able to figure it out as I'm saying it. And yet it's not like they come straight out and say, yeah, what about this? No, they have a way of rewording things and getting me to reframe my mind that it actually ends up coming out of me, but they're working me to it themselves. And it's amazing. Expect once you sit down, there's going to be questions. And like Boots said, take questions of your own. Things that you forgot to ask about or things like that. Take those with you. But they're going to ask you questions. Okay, they're going to want to know what about your past. That are there family histories? We know depression can run in families, for example. So are there issues in the family? Did you grow up in a divorced family? Was there abuse? Was there trauma? How do you feel today? They're going to want to know, how do your symptoms or whatever you're dealing with affect you today? Today not being this week, but right now. And then how is it over the course of a week? So they're going to try to get a good idea of who you are during that first appointment. They're not going to figure you out, but they're going to get an idea so that they can take that next step, okay, of setting ground rules and all that. Taking something with you to be grounded, perfect one. And in fact, when I go to Discord and set this up, gang, those of you who are in Discord, I'm going to ask for suggestions also. So anything that I don't get written in, please feel free to add it once I start that list. No judgment. Oops. P.S. I saw the judgment and I'm like, I'm not going to say anything, but hopefully they are not judging you, because that's one reason why I'd walk out the door, to be honest. So thank you for clearing. I was like, wait, did I read that? I was thinking it was a typo. Your pediatrician had the maze too. See, and that's it. And it's amazing, even as an adult. Someday we're going to talk about inner child work here. And I just have not gotten to that point yet, but we will at some point because that was a biggie for me. Um, as they go through this and things are pulled together, at some point they're usually going to set up ground rules, expectations, things like that. So they're going to tell you all the things. Okay, I think you need to, why don't we just see each other for 2 days a week for the next 2 weeks, and then we'll figure out if we can back off to once a week or once every other week. They may start coming up with ideas on, okay, if you need me, here's how you can contact me. Okay, if they feel that you might be at risk for hurting yourself or something like that, they may set up ground rules right then and there. Okay, basic ones to help get you to a place that you're safe, so that between then and the next time, if you do trigger, you have something to hold on to and work with to keep yourself calm. And so they'll usually do that. It's important to realize when you're meeting with them, the role of a therapist, okay, psychiatrist, psychologist, life coach, whatever they're called, okay, is to help unravel all the emotions you came in with. And that's why sometimes I would leave therapy and be thinking, okay, next week we're going to talk about this, 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 and this. And all of a sudden next week came and I had something totally different happening. Okay, totally different. And that whole plan that I had was out the door because I'd walk in the next week and be like, oh my God, this is what's going on. And that became the lesson of the day for us, helping me to unravel what was going on so I could figure out what direction to take it from there. So they're there to help you do that. They may also guide you for the future, okay, and changes. Like I said, with me, I always found the best therapists for me were the ones who didn't tell me what to do necessarily. They helped me figure it out on my own. Yes, there's certain things they're going to have to tell you. For example, if you're doing EMDR, they're going to have to tell you, okay, about tapping or tapping or the eye movement portion of it or things like that. But they're not going to help me try to come straight out and say, okay, when this happens, you need to do this, 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 and that. No, they want me to find out what works for me. So as you leave, you need to remember you're in charge as you're there the whole time. Okay, from the moment you walk in to the moment you leave, you are in charge. Okay, and that's important to remember because a lot of us have control issues. Okay, we need to feel like we have some control over what's going on in our lives. And the feeling that we're opening ourselves up to people is scary. So knowing that you are in charge every moment of that, it's okay to speak up. Okay, a real therapist is actually going to be happy and grateful that you're speaking up if you're feeling uncomfortable or something like that. Because you should never, ever, ever feel physically uncomfortable. Now, let me qualify that. When I say physically uncomfortable, you're going to feel physically uncomfortable to some degree. Okay, you're opening up. You're going to be anxiety. Anxiety is physical. Okay, but you should not be worried about anything else on a physical level, whether it is, okay, predation, okay, predator type thing, okay, or someone pushing you outside of your limits. You have your boundaries, and those boundaries need to be kept. They should not ever be doing anything that you feel is not appropriate. Okay, so making sure that whatever is being said and all feels appropriate to you. It might push you out of your comfort zone, but it should still be appropriate. You should also not feel like you're being judged. We were just joking about that, the judgment bit. You should not be openly, you should never be, yes, I had a part in my head that was always kind of like, oh my gosh, if I say this happened, okay, tell them about this incident, they're going to roll their eyes or they're going to be like, oh my God, wow, or something like that. But what I'm talking about is when you've got a therapist who's coming back to you and openly judging what you're saying. That's not part of real therapy. Real therapy is not about judging you whatsoever. So if you feel that, that's one of your signs that this is not the match for you. Because if you're feeling that on day one, what's it going to be like later? So you make those decisions. Always, always, and I'm going to kind of wrap this whole thing up with this. Remember, you're hiring this person. Okay? You matter. You're the one who took control over whatever is going on in your life and put yourself first. You're giving your own time up to be able to deal with things and work on things to better yourself. You matter. Okay? You may have to try and try again. I have been through, let me just ask that those of you comfortable in chat saying this. How many different therapists do you think you've been through in your whole life? Some of you are going to be lucky enough to say one. I think I probably over the course, now I moved, so I had to change and all that's true, but I've probably gone to 7 or 8 in my life. Okay, of those 7 or 8, maybe 3 of them became good people that I stayed with. So you may have to go back and try again. Roselink, 5 or 6. See, it's okay. A lot of us feel like just because the first one didn't work or the second one didn't work, that there's no hope. There is. It's just finding the right person. It's like your friend. You're not going to match up with someone and then all of a sudden be like, oh, yep, that's my best friend. No. You're going to have tons and tons of friends in your life. A small number of them are going to actually become the ones that you connect with on a level that goes way beyond friendship. Okay, it's the same thing with therapy. It's going to be a small number that you really, really connect with. Too many to count, Boots. Exactly. So continue, try again. Do what you need to Kathleen 5. So see, guys, looking at that. And that's what I wanted people to see is because so many give up. Okay, you had, Red Rock had one that gave 0 feedback. And see, and that's it. And if you need it, and this is something good one to go in with that. Hey, Katie K, no problem, my dear. And feel free to tell them. You know, sometimes our therapists, doctors even. I had this talk with someone else the other day. We were talking about doctors. And their doctor was not doing what they were wanting them to do. And then all they did was one day when the doctor was continuing the normal route, they came out and they said, you know, no, this is not acceptable. This is what I need. I need you to treat me this way. And all of a sudden the doctor's like, okay, let's do it. So be your advocate. Open your mouth, be your own advocate, be your own champion. Champion yourself the way you would champion your own child or your best friend. And all because you are your best friend. So do those things. So I'm going to pull this on up. Those of you who are here with me all the time know I usually try to throw out what is everyone's takeaway for the day. One thing from our discussion today that you're going to be like, yeah, that's something I need to remember moving forward or something I want to try come tomorrow morning. Those of you who are watching Replay Crew, type it on down below in the comments section. But what are your takeaways for today? I know with me, it honestly, some of my takeaways actually came from chat. Reminding me to take something, not just now, if I go to therapy, but anytime, something that I can ground with because I've kind of forgotten to do that recently. So, Kathleen, I might have more, but I just remember the ones you had through Mary. Exactly. Boots, I fought the DID diagnosis for several years until it became so obvious to you that you were losing time, that you couldn't die. Yeah. And that tends to happen, especially with something like DID, because it is very, very easy to deny it within your own self. Very easy to deny it because unfortunately with DID, it's too many people see DID as what you see on TV or the movies, and that's not DID. That is DID to some degree, but it's most people, that's not what DID is at. Okay. It's a spectrum. Let's see. Katie K, hers is to join live sooner. I love you, girl. Oh my God, I love you, girl. Grandma Sherry, sometimes changing therapists is needed to continue your journey of healing. Yes, so true. You've grown. I've grown. I am not the 20-year-old that was going to therapy back on Kauai. I am so not that girl now. Okay. Anyone who knows me in real life knows I'm like 180 degrees different now. So let's see what else we got here. Rosalie, oh yeah. Yeah, please know you're not alone, for sure, for sure. Every time, Red Rock, every time I come to Friday night, I have to admit I have unresolved things. And I think that's the thing. And that's why I actually finished it up with Cantina in 34 minutes, because I know it does pull up a lot of things in us. It pulls up a lot of stuff in me at times, because I'll be honest, I'm at a place in my life that I feel I would not be looking at becoming a life coach like Rosaline is doing too, if I was not in that place, because I never could have done it years ago. But I'm still dealing with issues. I still deal, in fact, yesterday I just had a long talk with my mom, okay, about my self-esteem, okay, because I was questioning myself like crazy. Okay, I caught myself saying things about myself that I'm like, oh my God. I mean, one of the first things that was in my mind when we went to Vegas last week was not just, is everyone else going to be the person that I thought they were going to be, which they all were, if not better, but would anyone be disappointed in me? And that should not be something that we're thinking about, but I think it's something most of us do think. And also it's something I have to come back to. So Red Rock, I get you, girl. Kathleen, I know I need to find one soon. I'm going through a lot right now on top of anxiety and depression. Kathleen, I wish you well on that. Please come into, I don't know if you do Discord. If not, we do have the Facebook group. Please come over there and we can kind of, even though Facebook has kind of been more of just, I think that's it. We'll find out. If not, I'll share it later out with everyone. But just have a place if you need questions, answers, ideas on how to find people. Or even if it's just someone to kind of light the fire under your butt because you're dragging your feet. That's what I needed, was someone to kind of do that. And Rosaline, take nothing personal. Make no assumptions. It would not be Mental Health Live without Rosaline bringing up our 4 agreements. Our 4 agreements, literally, I came up upon that book back when I was in therapy, actually. It was not part of therapy, but I came across the book because I was doing tons of self-help books at the time. And yeah, those 4 agreements will get you so far, so far. So I want to thank all you guys for joining in today. Thank you guys so, so much. And we will be doing Cantina. It's going to be a normal Cantina, gang. Let's be realistic. It's going to be a normal Cantina. But hopefully there will be a lot of updates on what happened during Vegas. You guys can hear, okay, what all we were doing while we were there, hopefully. Hopefully I can hear what was going on while I was gone. Okay, what people had happen in their own lives, because I missed you guys for 2 weeks. Amy, I mean yeah, it was the best week actually in my life. It really honestly was. I say it over and over, guys, if you've ever worried that you cannot make friends here on YouTube, if you've ever thought that YouTube, that we're just acquaintances that call each other friends, no. Yeah, you're going to have the whole spectrum of friendships. And not everyone's going to be a friend. Okay, some are going to be on one level, whatever. But you can make lifelong friends. You really honestly can. And you probably know them better than you know your real life friends, to be honest, because we are so open with each other. So anyhow, I'm going to go reload my drink, get myself out. Ipuchao. And these are the best. They're from, I think, Korea, but they're so good. And I haven't had one in months, and they just came in the mail today. So I will see you in 31 minutes. So please join us for that. You guys know the rules of Cantina. Come up on panel. Let's just have talk, fun, all that stuff. And if you have subjects for the future, gang, please let me know. I'm always looking for subjects. I have a couple ideas that I'm going to push towards in the future that are going to take a little bit more work. But please let me know if there's something you'd like us to talk about. In the meantime, I love you all. Aloha, mahalo, and I'll see you in 30 minutes. Love you guys. Bye-bye.